One of the smartest cats I know.
He's the chair of the law faculty of the U.S. Coast Guard Academy, where he serves as a permanent professor of law. He teaches courses in constitutional law, international law, and national security law. He's the author of the wildly successful book, The National Security Court System. Here is the captain, Glenn Sulmasy.
There he is! I tell you, you are a good-looking man. So, Cap, first, thank you very much for coming out.
Hey, it's an honor, and what great things you folks are doing for the region, for Long Island, Rhode Island, and thanks to you, JB, and John Fuller for providing a forum for great conservative talk, which is wonderful.
Now, I kid with him all the time, and we're going to get him down. He's going to sit down after we just kind of chat for a second, and we'll get into some of the serious issues at hand. But I kid him all the time because this is the mold of a senator, ladies and gentlemen. This is Senator Sulmasy right here. Can we get him to run? Would you vote for a Senator Sulmasy? Look at that.
He's talking about the faculty senate at the Coast Guard Academy, so don't worry, there's no threat. Thank you, Lee.
I didn't mean U.S. Ooh, got a fan. But I have to go through some of those. I wanted to ask you one question before we bring out the next two guests, and we'll have a little roundtable discussion. But I want to talk to you about executive power.
Yeah.
You actually work for the President of the United States, don't you?
I do.
Has there been an abuse of power as far as the President of the United States is concerned?
That's a great question, Lee. And for everybody, I really don't think what we're seeing is a general trend in America where executive power in the Bush administration and now in the Obama administration is continuing to increase, where the real power is supposed to be in the people. The founders anticipated that the power would be in the legislature, in the House of Representatives, and the Senate, the closest to the people. And what's happened is Congress has abdicated its constitutional mandate and authority and responsibility and allowed the Supreme Court to become tremendously powerful, and the president becoming increasingly powerful institutionally. Not necessarily the individual, but the actual institution of the presidency has become way too powerful domestically.
Yeah, but how do you grab that back?
I think we have to have people run for Congress, like some of the folks in the room and some of the folks that are running, and people out throughout the United States to run that recognize the power of Congress is the paramount, because that is the closest to everybody in the room, to the people of the United States of America.
How about the judges of the world, the Supreme Justice? Can't they rein the president in?
The Supreme Court is unique. Remember, the Supreme Court also, Lee, the two institutions that have grown, the Supreme Court is oh so powerful now, way too powerful, much more so than the founders ever anticipated. And almost everybody in this room I know I speak to is a person that loved the founders, believes in American exceptionalism. And the founders thought the Supreme Court would be the least important, thus Article 3 of the three branches. And actually, if you look at history, you probably all of you know, there was a Congress, there was a building for that. There was what we call the White House was once the presidential palace, the White House. And then where was the Supreme Court? The basement of the Senate, because it was thought to be the weakest of the three branches. So we've allowed this to take place, where I wouldn't want the Supreme Court having any more power than they have. The real power, because remember, the Supreme Court has zero accountability to everybody in this room and any citizen of the United States. They're unaccounted, unelected, life-tenured justices with black robes from Harvard and Yale. I don't want them telling me what to do.
All right, Glenn, sit, don't move. Get your questions ready for Glenn. It'll be part of the discussion. Raise your hand. Emily will come find you, and we can start the conversation. Just really, I want to ask the first question, and just kind of feel free, you guys jump in and kind of just have a discussion. I know we didn't talk about any of this stuff, but I might as well start with one of the hottest button issues you can possibly imagine. Ron from Ron's Guns is right over there. Gun issues, perspective on gun issues. I'll start with you, Glenn. Where do you stand on guns, and then just jump in?
First, I'd like to thank Ron for what he does for the citizens of the United States and for Connecticut. So thank you, Ron, for all you do. I think that speaks volumes to where I stand. The Second Amendment is pretty clear. The Constitution says you have the right to bear arms. You do have the right to bear arms. The founders anticipated that. And you, most importantly, have the right to protect yourself against the federal government. And that was the intention by the founders when they drafted the Constitution. I stand by that now, I stand by it when I was a cadet, and I stand by it in the future.
David? I'll start with you, Glenn. Does America still have better days ahead? In other words, is there still an exceptionalism in America, or have we lost that?
That's a great question, Lee. I think America does have much greater days ahead, and there's a problem. We really see the cultural elite in America today, and I think Scott sees this in DC, and other members of the panel see it, is that there's a sense that it's cool or it's okay to criticize America, put it down, and look at it in a negative way. That's not the way it should be. We do have greater days ahead. I remember the malaise with Jimmy Carter in the late 70s. It was over. We'd lost to communism in the late 70s. Along came a man like Ronald Reagan who turned that whole vision around and said, no, there are greater days ahead. So I think we as citizens need to embrace the idea that America, there's nothing wrong with loving America. There are the students singing this afternoon here, this evening, that were singing the national anthem. There are young people in the audience. There's nothing wrong, or impolite, or uncool, or not chic to love America. And I think we need to embrace that and say, America is the greatest nation in the world. And that's something to be proud of.
Scott?
Seeing things like this happening, plus with the Constitution being attacked on this in the background, rewriting the Constitution, rewriting our amendments, and so forth to fit with our society today.
Glenn, you want to answer that one?
Sure, I do think that it's not unsurprising that was on NPR, first and foremost. But I think that's one of the dangers you run up against is the Constitution should be read as it was written. And I am what is known in Supreme Court jurisprudence as an originalist. And you look at the Constitution as it was written at the time, because the founders were genius. And they thought of a way, if you wanted to change the interpretation or change the way the Constitution was written, there's a process. And they were brilliant. They said through the amendment process. And we'd used that in the past. If you want to choose to change the Constitution, change it, not through judges, or I like to call the Supreme Court the mullahs of the West, who sit and opine on these issues and decide what they think. We had Justice Scalia at the Academy a couple of weeks ago, and Justice Scalia said, listen, and he's an originalist, he said, Glenn, what do you expect? What other way to interpret the Constitution as it was written? Because if you say there's another way, what is it? And no one can tell you. What I feel that day? Do you want to change the rules every time? Do we change the rules and say that in a football game, that the field goal now, if the team's losing, that's a good group of people and they're the underdogs. The field goal now will count for 10 points because we feel bad for that team? That's what we're dealing with, and that's the problem. And yes, we deal with that every single day in the Constitution. The Constitution should be read, interpreted as it is written and was written.
Rob? Well,